There, we're showing you a picture of the Q&A webpage. Do check that out. You can see the latest guests and show topics we have planned for you. It's located on the World Wide Web at cnn.com/Q&A. With a very young picture of me. Welcome back to the program. We're discussing Turkish politics today, in particular the disputed island of Cyprus. Well, even as the United Nations General Assembly session is underway in New York, talks over Cyprus, where the UN maintains a buffer zone, are scheduled to take place. Our guest will be meeting his Greek counterpart, Theodoros Pangalos, later in the day. Ismail is the Turkish foreign minister, and he's answering to the Turkish Prime Minister Mesut Yilmaz. He joins us from New York, ready to field your wide array of questions and comments. Let's get our caller from Turkey on the line straight away. Go ahead, your question, please.
Hello?
Hello. Go ahead.
Mr. Cem, hello. I'm calling from Ankara, Turkey.
Okay.
I would like to... I'm just watching you now. I would like to ask you, why instead of arguing a lot of sneezy questions, why don't we just ask the question, what is the reason for bringing those missiles into Cyprus for those Greeks? Why don't we ask this question only?
So, Mr. Cem?
Well, we have asked this question. We have tried to talk with all parties interested, and we are telling them that it is so senseless to have an arsenal built up in a tiny island, an arsenal made of missiles, because this will only provoke other kinds of arms build up, and this will only provoke a similar arms build up in the regions around Cyprus, and this will start a fashion of having S-300s around, and therefore we're asking this question, and we hope that others are thinking on the matter as they should.
We have that email from Japan that I was I promised earlier. It says Turkey recently forged new ties with Israel. How does this affect regional security?
I think as long as we keep our position, in a way our unique position to the Arab and Islamic world, we should have very good relations with Israel. And that's exactly what we have been doing, and that's exactly what we used to be doing since some years. And I believe that we're a stabilizing factor in the Middle East by both having very good contacts, dialogue, and sometimes cooperation with Israel and with Arab nations.
Let's see what our caller in Turkey has to ask you, Mr. Cem.
Yes.
Go ahead, caller.
How will the Republic of Turkey take position when the European Union will begin conversations with the southern part of Cyprus? Thank you.
Well, this is a very delicate question. It's really we should look at it first from the viewpoint of the Turkish Cypriots, and their psychology is a troubled one. They're really in a difficult position because the big majority of the Turkish Cypriots think that they are brought into a processes where they have no say, they can't control anything, and they are being drifted towards an organization, an international body that they don't know. And then the second point that they have is that they foresee a future within the EU, within which they will be in a Greek-dominated republic. They will be like a helpless minority in a hostile environment. And as I was referring a minute earlier, this Bosnian syndrome is a very important one, especially through some Muslim populations throughout the world where they feel themselves endangered. And that goes with Cyprus as well, because they don't want to go, they don't want to live the Bosnian situation in other parts of the world.
I'll try to touch a little bit on the Turkish situation with the EU in a moment. Let's get our caller on the line from Greece with a question. Go ahead.
Yes, please.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Yes. I would like to ask, how can you expect Greek Cypriots to negotiate with Turkey since they're still threatened and killed by occupied Turkish troops in the Northern Ireland?
Well, first, I don't expect the Greek Cypriots to negotiate with Turkey. I expect them to negotiate with Turkish Cypriots. Then, if you're referring to the very unfortunate incidents for which I'm very sorry for, where two, I believe, or three Greek Cypriots were killed, and also about those incidents at the same period when two Turkish Cypriots were killed. They are things that we should all be very critical of, no matter from which side it comes from. And I believe that we should talk, Greece and Turkey should talk with each other. The Greek Cypriots and the Turkish Cypriots should talk with each other in order to avoid such incidences.
It's a bit of a complicated situation, isn't it? Because in NATO you have Greece and Turkey supposedly allies. They're supposed to also be enemies, and yet you have Greece in the European Union, Greek Cypriots wanting to join, and Turkey wants to join the EU too. Now, where does that leave Turkey as far as joining the EU, if there's going to be disputes at this level as well?
Well, Turkey joining the EU will be, I believe, will be decided by December '97, and hopefully it will be taken as a case where the Turkish application for the EU stands for some more than 20 years, about 23 years, and that some of the problems that we're talking about will be somehow in the processes of being solved.
All right, Mr. Cem, don't go away. We've got to take another short break. Ismail Cem is our guest. We're discussing Turkish politics and the situation on the divided island of Cyprus. Bear in mind, we have asked a representative from the Greek government to join us. So far, we haven't heard back. Hope they will contact us. We continue with Q&A after this short pause. Make your plans to be with us next time for a major show on conservation. One of the world's foremost experts, Dr. David Weston, head of the Kenya Wildlife Conservation Society, is our guest. Dr. Weston takes a middle-of-the-road approach towards conservation and the protection of wildlife. He'll share his ideas with us, and we'll field your questions via phone, fax or email. Remember the email address, CNNi@turner.com, and the fax number is 14048274056. But now back to Turkey's Foreign Minister, Ismail Cem, who's fielding your questions. He's joining us from New York. We have an email question here for you, Mr. Cem. It says, does Denktaş, referring to Turkish Cypriot leader, negotiate for the well-being of Turkish Cypriots, or does he strictly follow Turkey's interests?
Denktaş is a personality that is very independent. And of course, he tries to understand the feelings we have in Turkey, our views, and he makes attention to our stance. But I have to say that basically he negotiates for the Turkish Cypriots, and he does it very independently.
We have a caller on the line. I think it's from Turkey. Go ahead.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
I would like to ask the Turkish foreign minister, please. The Greeks have militarized the islands, Greek islands around Turkey. Now it seems to be the turn of Cyprus. How long is this going to go on like this, and what is the policy of Turkish government on the islands that have been militarized, although they're not supposed to be militarized by laws? The Lausanne Agreement. Thank you.
Yes, you're referring to the Lausanne Agreement and to the 1947 Paris Agreement. Those islands, well, unfortunately, are armed against Turkey in spite of the treaties that put forward exactly the contrary, that they shouldn't be armed. We have been always opposing this fact, the way, the fait accompli that the Greeks have achieved in the islands. But frankly, we do not want to create further problems. We have been complaining about them. I have talked it over with almost all the colleagues that I have met in my ministry, during my ministry. But you're right. You're right. And we really cannot afford to have a Cyprus with missiles, with Russian S-300s, besides those 12 islands that are already armed in Eastern Mediterranean.
Another caller in Turkey. A brief question, please. We're almost out of time.
Yeah, all right. Hello?
Hi, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes?
Do you think the Greeks and the Greek Cypriots could ever be a threat to Turkey? And why don't you divert that money spent for military purposes to more real, important issues in Turkey rather than that bluff going on in the Mediterranean?
Let's see.
I agree on in the principle. I agree that Greece and southern Cyprus are not really big major threats, but when you have missiles around you, you have to be careful. You have to think about your security, of your people's security. And I hope one day we'll all, not only Turkey, not only Greece, but all countries in the world, will spend our money not for rearmament, but for the good of our peoples.
A positive thought there to end on. Ismail, CEM, thanks very much for being with us on Q&A.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks. And there we end that. Ismail, CEM, by the way, is meeting his Greek counterpart in Theodoros Pangalos in a couple of hours from now. So that's coming up at the United Nations. We've heard a lot from you regarding some big Q&A changes. In case you missed it, let's let you remind you again. Starting